Hello and welcome to the Intro to Svelte course here on Scrimba. So in this video, I want to give you a bit of an intro to Svelte and convince you that it is the best framework yet. So a little bit about me. My name is Noah. In 2018, I got my first full-time developer job. Before that, I was teaching English in China and had studied linguistics, computational linguistics. And then in 2019, I started a YouTube channel just about after Svelte 3 came out. And this really helped me a lot with my career, which landed me a senior Svelte developer position just a few months ago. So what is Svelte? Is it a framework, a compiler, a language? It's kind of all three, but the thing that makes it special from other frameworks is that it is a compiler. So what are some of the benefits of a compiler? For one, there's a much smaller bundle size. So by being a compiler, you don't need to ship the whole framework with your web page to the client. Another great thing is that there's no virtual DOM. So I know virtual DOM sounds pretty cool, but it's actually just overhead. And by getting rid of it, you'll have a better performing web page. And the third thing is that it is extendable. So Svelte can grow and have features added to it without increasing your bundle size. So here in this graph, you can see a comparison of different frameworks implementing the same real-world app. You can click on this image and go to the article. You can see Svelte here is at the top with the smallest bundle size. And then here is speed. So after the page has already been loaded, the performance, and you'll see Svelte again is towards the top. Okay, so now for you as the developer, why is Svelte so awesome? The first thing that really caught my eye about Svelte was how little code I needed to write to get the same end result as I would if I were using something like React or Vue. Another core feature of Svelte is its reactivity. And if you don't know what this is exactly, it'll become clear as we go throughout the course. But basically, it lets you write simpler, shorter, and more declarative code. And finally, right here, I have that Svelte is simple. The developers of Svelte put a huge emphasis on developer experience, and this is what really makes Svelte shine. Right here, we have a comparison of the lines of code taken to write these real-world apps, and you'll see Svelte, again, is very near the top. So now you might be thinking, wow, Svelte sounds great, but I want to know, how will this help me in my career? Should I really invest time into learning Svelte? So I would say if you are someone who's more of a self-starter and you've got side projects or a side business, Svelte is going to be a great choice for your projects. It's going to be faster development, less stress, chasing down bugs, and you're just going to have more mind space to think of higher level problems rather than worrying about smaller implementation details. Another thing is that your web page is going to load faster than if you were to use a competing framework, just because it's a compiler, and that's going to give you a big advantage. And thirdly, from my own experience and from what I've heard from others, people just feel a lot happier using Svelte than another framework. People feel like it's very simple and it's easy to write code quickly and keep your code readable and maintainable. Now, if you're someone who's just looking to get a job and you want to have the best skills to get hired and get a better job, then I'm not going to say that you should only learn Svelte and not know something like React, Vue, or Angular. But there are some advantages to knowing Svelte. For one, it makes you stand out from other candidates. It shows that you're interested in newer technologies, what's going on in JavaScript, and that you take time outside of work to learn new things. Another thing that happened to me once was I was given a task to do and I could use any framework I wanted to. So I used Svelte, and by using Svelte, I was able to finish the task much quicker and much cleaner than was expected of me. So that gave me a lot of great bonus points. And then thirdly, it's an investment in the future. So, of course, with technologies, you never know what's going to happen, which technology will be the biggest in 10 years. But I do believe in Svelte, and if it really takes off in industry and you've been using it and learning it for a year, that's going to look great on your resume. So I'm going to get into the course outline. Basically, we're going to look at components first. What is a Svelte component? How do you make one? How do you pass them around? Then we're going to go into templating syntax, which is basically how to add for loops and if statements into your HTML. Third, we're going to talk about event handling, which is fairly simple in React. and I'll show you how easy it is to do two-way binding in Svelte. So throughout all of this, there'll be challenges scattered through, and as we go through the course, it'll all be building up to your final project. So if this is your first time using Scrimba, you're in for a real treat. At any point in any of the videos, you can pause and type your own code into the code editor here and save by clicking this button and see your changes in the browser. And we'll be using this feature to do challenges throughout the course. So after every few videos, I'll give you a challenge. You'll be able to write it here in the code, and then afterwards see me implement it right in this code editor. And by the way, this is the final project, so if you want to look around a bit and see if you can kind of figure out what's going on, you can also try it out right here and see if you can get different endings in this choose your own adventure game. And finally, I've got some resources here that you might be interested in. If you click right here, this will take you to the main Svelte website, which has documentation, among other things. If you click here, you can enter your email to be notified when this Svelte bootcamp comes out here on Scrimba. This will be a great opportunity for you to level up your Svelte skills to a professional level. Right here, I have my YouTube channel, which includes lots of little Svelte tutorials, none of them interactive like Scrimba here, but still a good resource. And finally, here are the communities on Discord. Right here, you can click to join the Scrimba community. Come by, introduce yourself. Everyone's really friendly. And this right here is the Svelte Discord community. Again, everyone's really friendly. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Come by and tell us a bit about yourself. So that's all for this video. And in the next video, we're going to get right into Svelte components. See you there. Hi there. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the anatomy of a Svelte component. So a Svelte component needs to be capitalized, just like here, app.svelte. And a component will have three parts, all of them optional. There's script, style, and then other HTML down here. So really, this might look familiar because it's basically just HTML. So just like in HTML, you have script tag with JavaScript, style with CSS, and then your other HTML, wherever you want it to be. So here in script, we'll have our JavaScript. So for example, say hi, like that. And style, let's say div color is red. So the difference here in Svelte is that this JavaScript right here is basically the state of the component. So I can use any JavaScript from up here down here in my HTML. So I could put the variable say right here, and I could put say. So if I run that, and I use Command S to refresh here, it'll do say hi. So this comes from that here. And if I want to change the state, I can do set timeout and say equals bye. So after 1 second, it'll say bye. And let's see what happens. Say hi and bye. So that's how easy it is to change the state of your component. Now here in style, we have div color is red, as you'll see here. This div, or this style here, is scoped to this component. So this will only affect the divs in this component here. It won't affect any other divs on the page. If you do want other divs to be affected, or if you want your CSS to affect other parts of the page, you can wrap it in a global tag like this and put div and background blue. So this will affect all divs on the page. We only have one div and it's in this component, so it won't really you won't really see it, but this global div here would affect anything on the page. So that's about it for a component. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about how to import components and how to use props. Okay, so in this video, we're going to make another component, and we're going to call it face.svelte. This will be the face component. And here, we're just going to have some HTML. This is just kind of the bare minimum you need for a component, and we'll put a little smiley face in there. So from app.svelte, if we want to use this face component, all we need to do is import face from face.svelte, like that. And then down here on the page, we can now use something like face. So you'll notice when I use this, it'll have a background of blue, but it will not have a color of red because this is global, affecting all divs, and this one is only affecting the divs in this component, okay? So even though face really is a div, it's not actually here in the component, so it won't be affected. So let's take a look at that. So here we have our smiley face with the blue background, but color of black still. But let's take this out for now. Okay, so the next thing you can do with a component, and a component is really just sort of a function for HTML with some other JavaScript magic in it. So here, to give it a parameter or a prop, we can export it like this. So export let size lets us pass from the parent something in for size. So when you have a prop, you're going to put curly brackets, just like here with the JavaScript, and you can put any JavaScript you want in here. So let's say 4. And then here from size, what we're going to do is use that variable to do an inline CSS font size. Size and like that. Okay, so this will pass 4 down here, and if we refresh, we'll see that is now 4 times bigger because we passed a 4 in here. Another thing you can do if it's just a string is just use it like that, like a normal HTML attribute, and that will work as well. So now, if I wanted a size of 4 and another one size of, let's say 10, I could do it like this. And I can also, from face, give it a default size. So let's default size it to just the normal 1. So if I give it a default, then I don't have to pass this in if it's just size of 1. So here, so we'll have one size 4, size 10, and then this one will be size 1 because nothing is being passed. So refresh that, and you see this one, and this one. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to have our first challenge, so see you there. Okay, so for your first challenge, you're going to do 5 things. First thing, you're going to add a prop called index into face.svelte, and you're going to give it a default value. And then you're also going to add a list of faces in face.svelte. And using the index, you're going to pass the index into the list, which will be used to choose the face. So for example, if you have a list of 3 faces and the index is 0, it'll be the first one in the list. If it's 2, it'll be the third one, etc. Okay, and then add 3 faces of your own onto this page using your new index. Okay, so I will wait here patiently while you do that. Pause the video and unpause when you're ready to see how I would do it. Okay, great work. So I'm going to show you how I would do this. So I'm going to add a prop called index. So right here, export let index, and we'll give it a default of, how about 1? Okay, and then I'm going to make a list. So I'll call it face list. And I'll have a happy face, just a normal face like that. And how about a angry face like this one? Okay, and then here, rather than just having this default smiley face, we can, in curly brackets, do face list at index. Okay, so the index will be used inside a face list and be put out here on the screen. So here, rather than doing sizes, let's have them all use the default size. And I'll have index equals, let's say, 0. This one I'll leave empty, so it'll be 1, and this one index equals 2. Okay, so if we see how that looks, so smiley face, normal face, angry face. Okay, so that's all for this part, and in the next part, we're going to be talking about slots in Svelte. Hi there, so in this video, I'm going to talk about slots. Just a quick note, I moved the styles down here, and I just added some global styles. I like to put the styles down here just so we don't have to really worry about them as much, and we can interact with the HTML and JavaScript up here. Okay, so anyway, slots. So slots let you do something like this. So here you'll notice our face component, it closes itself, and there's no content inside, like this div. So a slot will let you put something inside a component. So like this is passed into this div component, and we want to do that with face. So I'm going to make a new component, and I'm going to call it container.svelte. And then here in container, I'm going to make a div with the class equals container. So I like that to just match the name of the component file. And then I'm just going to copy and paste some CSS in here like that. And right here is where I'm going to put the slot. So it's pretty simple. All you got to do is make a tag like this, slot. And now anything that is inside of our container component is going to be inserted into that slot. So let me show you what I mean. Here I'll import container from container.svelte. And then I'm going to wrap everything in that container. This all here. Oops. And close it. So let's see how that looks. Cool. So now we have this container here, and everything is put inside of it. So all of this that I have highlighted is inserted into the slot like that. So that's how a slot works. If you want, you can also check out named slots and slot defaults. I'm not going to go into that, but you can go look on that. So next video, we are going to talk about the Svelte templating syntax. See you then. Hi there. So in this video, we're going to talk about the Svelte templating syntax, and what this lets you do is have if statements and for loops and some other things inside of your HTML. So let's get started. So if we want to have an if statement, just hashtag if, and let's change this, say, to a true or false. So let's start it out as false and say for a second becomes true. So if say, so if we want to say something, and rather than using this, we'll say hi. Okay, so if say, then display this on the screen. So hashtag is used to open a template block, and this slash here is used to close it. So we'll use that and see how this looks. Okay, so you see it doesn't say anything, and after a second, it says hi. So this is the if statement. You can also have an else. And right here we'll say not saying anything. Okay, and here we use a colon because this is an intermediate value of the block. So else, we'll run that. So not saying anything and hi. And this is not in a div, so it just has black color. Okay, so that's kind of the basics. You can also do something like else if, not say. It's kind of redundant. But you can have an if statement as well, and that'll work. Okay, so now for the for loops. It's a bit weird, and I'm not a big fan of how this is named, but it's hashtag each, and then a list. So I'll give it a list, and we're going to do 0, 1, 2. Actually, let's mix this up a bit so that it changes. So just do 2, 1, 0. Each as face index. Okay, so now I can get rid of all these, and I can close it with slash each. And now, rather than passing a constant value into there, we're going to pass in the face index. Okay, so it'll be a face with 2, 1, and then 0. So these should flip. So it'd be angry, normal, and then smiley face. So let's see how that looks. Yep, angry, normal, smiley face. Cool. And another little trick I'll show you is that here you can do as index, and if this name right here matches the name of the prop, so usually, you would do it like this. Oops. You would do it like this, but it's kind of redundant since it has the same name, so you can actually get rid of this and just pass it in like this, and that will work as well. And there we go. So that is the basics of if and each, or for loops, in the templating syntax. There's also await, which is pretty cool if you have async data, but I'm not going to go into that. And that is all. In the next video, we will have your second challenge. So see you there. Hey there. So in the second challenge, we're going to use what we just learned about Svelte templating to add a header to our little web app. So I've already added here header.svelte, and this is just some boilerplate. What you need to do is add an each block right here, so that rather than just having one image, which is the Svelte logo, and this little happy guy, rather than having one of each, it's going to repeat up here in the header. So you'll need to use an each block for that. And you're going to use an if statement and set timeout to make it appear after 1 second. Okay, so we'll load the page after 1 second, then you'll see Svelte logo and happy guy repeating up here as the header. Okay, so try that out, and I'll show you how I would do that when you're done. Okay, so first thing I would do is here I'm going to import header from /header.svelte. And then outside of container, I'm going to say if show header, and we'll put the header right here. So we got to add that variable right here. Let show header equal false, so it won't be showing. And then set timeout. and show header will equal true after 1,000 milliseconds. Cool. So now here in header, well, actually, let's see how that looks. So after a second, there it is. So it's just one Svelte logo and one celebration guy. So here we're going to add an each. Each here, it doesn't really matter what we put because we're not going to be using these numbers. So maybe I'll just put 0, 0, 0, 0. And here also, it doesn't really matter what we do. So I can just type nonsense as our variable. And then I'll end it. So now this will repeat 4 times for each 0. So let's see how that looks. Cool. And you'll see as it gets bigger, it kind of stretches out like that. So that should work. And I'm going to change this to just underscore. Use that just to show kind of a dummy variable that we don't need. Okay, that's all. So in the next video, we will be talking about events in Svelte. See you there. Hi there. So in this video, we're going to talk about the basics of event handling in Svelte. So to start, rather than having the set timeout, what we're going to do is we're going to toggle the header based on a button click. So I'm going to add a button, and then in Svelte, to have an inline event, the syntax looks like this. So on says that it's an event, and then the name of the event will be right there. And then inside here, we can add what will happen. So a function show header equals true, like that. So show. Okay, so now if we run this, and we have a button, show, and there it shows. Cool. So that's the basics. That's fairly straightforward for an inline event handler. Now we're going to add a button component. So button.svelte, and I'm going to paste in some boilerplate right here. So it's just a button with these styles right here. Okay, so let's import our button. Import button from /. Oh, again, we're going to use our button component. So because this is a component and not a native HTML button, we cannot put an on-click handler like we did before. So if we do show header equals true, so really this is a button, right? And let's add a slot to our button so that we can put some text inside of it. So we'll do show again, show, and run that. Okay, so if we click that, you'll see nothing happens. Okay, even though we have this on-click event handler and it is a button. So the reason is this is a Svelte component, right? And it doesn't know that you should be able to click it and have this event. So in order to fix that, this is called event forwarding. You just need to add an on-click with nothing there. So this says on-click of this button right here, send a click event up and let the parent handle it. So on-click, if we just add that right there, now from here, if we refresh again, it'll work. Okay, so now you can take that on click. So this is event forwarding, and that's how you get events from children up to parents. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to talk about event dispatching for a bit more complex event handling. So see you there. Hi there. So in this video, we're going to talk about event dispatching. So I've changed the button component to buttons, and now you'll see there's 2 buttons, show and hide, both of them forwarding the click event. So if we come back here, if you want, you can try it out. You'll see that both buttons are going to do show header true because they both emit the click. So it doesn't matter which one you click, it's going to run this here. So rather than both having them both do click, what we're going to do is use a event dispatcher to make them emit different events. So here, it's a bit verbose, but import create event dispatcher from Svelte. And then here we're going to make, you can name this whatever you want, but I usually use dispatch equals create event dispatcher. Cool, so now we can use dispatch to dispatch different events. So what that means is here, for example, on click equals. So rather than forwarding the click event, we're going to handle the click event. And it'll be a function that dispatches the show event. So this can be whatever you want. And whatever you use there is what's going to be put right here. So show, on show, show header equals true. Okay, so this will dispatch show. And here, this one right here will dispatch hide. And again, this can be any name you want. I'm just making these up, show and hide. And then right here, I can do on hide. It'll be similar to this. On hide equals, it'll be show header equals false. Okay, so now we have two different events on show, on hide. And now if we run that, we'll see that show shows it and hide hides it. Okay, so the second part of this is that you can actually pass values up through this dispatch. So let's do this a bit differently. Rather than them doing show and hide, they're going to dispatch, they'll just dispatch click like normal. Both of them will do click. But then here in the second part, I'm going to pass false, and I'm going to pass this here as true. So you can pass values up through the dispatch. And from here, they're accessible through E. So now we don't have hide or click, or we don't have hide or show, we just have click. So on click, we'll pass E. So this is the event variable that's always there with events. So show header equals e.detail. So this e.detail refers to whatever is passed in the second part of dispatch. So we'll see if we refresh this, we can still show and hide because it's setting it to e.detail, which is either true or false. So that's all for events, and I'll see you in the next video for the third challenge. Hey there, welcome to the third challenge. So this one's going to be a bit more involved than the last two, and it's going to deal with the event dispatchers. So here I have added const buttons equals this list of objects and a score of 0. So what we want to do is take these buttons and pass them into our buttons component. And then when they click one of the options, so here it would say I sure do, and gross, it will update the value, update the score by whatever value right here is. Okay, so what does that mean? So first you'll need to add a prop onto buttons.svelte, and that'll accept this buttons list of objects. And then you'll use the each to turn all the objects into buttons. And the inner HTML should be equal to text, so the inner HTML of the button, and the value that it dispatches should be equal to the value right here. Okay, and then handle the event in the app.svelte component, which we're in right now. So on click, it'll handle this and update the score. So based on what they click, it'll update the score by the value. So pause the video, try that out, and push play again when you're ready to see the solution. Okay, so first thing we're going to do here is export let buttons. Okay, so we know that the buttons is going to be a array, so we're going to want to do each buttons as button. We just need one button here. So we'll end the each loop. Okay, so button right here, we'll have button.text. And on click is going to dispatch the click event, and it's going to dispatch button.value. And I'm going to do it this way. It's okay if you didn't do this, but I'm going to dispatch an object with value equal to button.value. Okay, now up here, on click E, so e.detail.value, that way it makes it clear what's being handled. We're going to take score, and we'll do plus equal whatever that is. Then finally, the last thing we need to do is pass these buttons in. And remember, this is the same as buttons equals buttons because they have the same name. So let's try that and see how it looks. Cool, so do you like pizza? Okay, so that doesn't do anything because it's score of 0. I sure do, that gives you 1, and gross gives you -2. Cool, so that's how you do it. As you'll see, it's pretty simple. And in the next video, we're going to start talking about reactive statements in Svelte. See you there. Hey there, so in this video, we're going to talk about reactive statements in Svelte. This is something unique to Svelte, and it's really awesome, it's really powerful, and even though it seems like we're still far away from getting to the final project that I showed you at the beginning of the course, we're actually really close. By using reactive statements, it'll make it a lot easier. Okay, so what are reactive statements? So here I have an example. smiley says. And I've changed some things up a bit. I've added a story here, which is just the object, just the content of what the story is like, and you can change that as you like. And I have here score, show header like we had before. And then I have this variable that I've added, smiley says, which is hi there, your score is score. Okay, so right now this will be hi there, your score is 0, which you can see right here. And we want it so that when they click the button, the score will actually be incremented. Okay, so right now if we try that, and I click none of your business or I'm good, thanks, you'll see that nothing changes. And here in story, so buttons is equal story 0 dot buttons. If we look at story here, we're on this one, buttons, value -1. So we want this to update -1 whenever none of your business is clicked. So we come back here and you'll notice it's not being clicked. That's because this is not a reactive statement. So this is executed one time. So score equals 0, and then smiley says, hi there, your score is 0. Okay? And then it just stays like that. It doesn't change because it doesn't know that score has changed. Okay? It doesn't care. It just stays like it was as always. So if we want this to update, then we're going to use a $: like this, which is technically valid JavaScript. And this is interpreted by Svelte as saying, whenever anything in this block, anything in here, any of the variables change, re-execute this block. So if you understand that one statement, you'll understand how this works. So whenever any variables in here get changed, re-execute this block. So now, if we see how this works, you'll see it gets updated. So now score gets updated, and this knows to re-update the variable. So whenever score changes, it reruns and updates itself. So another thing you could do, and anything can go in this block here. So you can put if statements. So let's say, for example, if score is less than -4, so if they've gone down quite a bit, then smiley says is going to equal, wow, your score is low. And that's so let's see if that works. And here we go. And there, wow, your score is low. So the way this works is that this gets updated, but then since this is second in line, it checks if score is less than -4, and it updates smiley says to this. And so you might be wondering, so how does this work here? Smiley says has never been declared, but we're still setting it without a let or a const. So if you have a reactive statement like this, and you're setting a variable to this, then it automatically will declare it as a let smiley says. Okay, but if we have something like this where it's just kind of a block of code that's running, this isn't setting any variable. So this, in this case, smiley says has to already be declared, but we're declaring it right here as a let by doing it this way. Okay, hope that makes sense. It can be a bit confusing. It can take some time to kind of wrap your head around how this works exactly. So I would suggest playing around with it, seeing what you can do to help you get an intuitive sense of how this works. So in the next video, I'm going to have a challenge, and we are going to get really close to finishing the final project. So I hope to see you there. Bye. Hey there, so welcome to the Reactivity challenge. This challenge is going to get us really close to being done with the final project, and it's just going to be 8 lines of code. So with your 8 lines of code, you need to do 3 things. First thing, which will be 2 lines, is add a happy score and a story index. So happy score will keep track of, how happy the face is based on what you've answered, and story index is just going to be incremented by 1 as we go through the story. So here I've given you story.js. Feel free to change it. Basically, this is story at story index 0, and then 1, and then 2. So as it increments, it'll take us through this series of smiley says and buttons. Okay, so we need to have 2 reactive statements, one for smiley says and one for buttons. Whenever story index gets incremented up by 1, then we want to update the page with the new smiley says and the new buttons options. And then third, which will be 4 lines of code, is a click handler, a function called click handler, which increments story index whenever a button is clicked and adds e.detail.value to happy score whenever a button gets clicked. Okay, so e.detail.value will be emitted or will be dispatched from buttons right here, this value, and it's just the value right here. So if they click none of your business, happy score goes down by 1 because that's something mean to say. Okay, similarly here, wow, that's a great question. Value goes up, so happy score goes up by 1 if the user chooses that. Okay, so try that out, and once you're done, click resume and I'll show you how I would do it. Okay, here we go. So first thing is to add our happy score. So happy score equals 0, and our story index will also equal 0. Next, we need two reactive statements. So we're going to update smiley says and buttons. So smiley says equals story at story index dot smiley says. And then similarly, we have buttons equals story at story index dot buttons. Okay, so whenever story index here gets updated, this block will get executed again, and it'll update it with the new values. Okay, and then the last thing to do is add function click handler, and it's going to take E, the event. And here, whenever something is clicked, story index plus equals 1, and happy score plus equals e.detail.value. Okay, so let's see if that works. Save that. Hi, how are you? So if we say none of your business, so maybe we should expand this a bit. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck? Okay, wow, what a great question. Svelte the future, do you want to hear? Yeah. Cool, so we're able to get through the story like that. There's just a few little features we need to add on still. In the next video, we're going to add some of those features on, and then there's two more Svelte features that I want to show you as well. So we're going to do binding and transitions in some of the next videos. So see you then. Hi there. So in this video, I'm just going to give you one last example of reactivity, and we're going to do it in the face here. So I'm going to give you a list of emoji face like this, and we have a reactive statement index equals happy score. So rather than index being passed in, we're just going to pass in a happy score. So from here, we'll have face, we'll pass in happy score, and just for fun, we're going to say size equals story index plus 1. So it'll keep growing as the story goes on. Okay, so whenever happy score gets updated, it'll pass it here into face, and face needs to know to update the index. Okay, so that's why we have a reactive statement right here. Another thing you could do if you don't want to have this is just put it directly into the HTML. So rather than index, you could just say happy score plus 5. Okay, but let's say we wanted the index, we wanted the face, and we wanted to use it other places, then we would need this here. So I'm going to do it like this, and this will update whenever happy score gets updated in the parent. Okay, so let's save that and see how it looks. So normal face, I'm good, thanks. Wow, what a great question. So got happier. Spell this future. Wow, even happier. Do I? Yeah, I do. Yeah, even I sure do. Oh, great. And you get a kissy face. So that was the maximum happiness. And now the face gets updated. So next video, we're going to talk about binding. Okay, so binding is fairly straightforward, and it's also called two-way binding. So here, if I have an input, type equals text, I can bind a value to this input. So that means, so we're going to say name equals nothing. That means if the user types something into this input, then it's going to update name with whatever they type. And if name changes, it's going to update input with whatever name is. Okay, so it's two-way binding. They're always equal. And whenever one changes, the other one changes too. The way we do that is we bind value. Okay, so we're going to bind this attribute of input, bind value to name. Bind value equals name. Okay, so let's see how that looks. So now we have an input, and I'm going to put the name right here. So name, comma, so they'll say the name, comma, and then whatever smiley says. So we'll update that. So here, if I say George, hi, how are you? So you'll see whenever I type here, it updates the DOM, and they're always in sync. Now, if name were also to change because of a button click or whatever, it would also update right here. Okay, so that's all for binding, fairly straightforward. You can also bind values from objects or lists, and you can also bind properties of a component. So if I wanted to bind the happy score, and then I changed happy score inside a face, it would update the happy score here. Okay, so that is binding, and in the next video, we're going to finish off the final project. See you there. Story and Hi there, so welcome to the final challenge to finish off the final project. Before we get started, let me just show you I added a bit of CSS to the H1, to the input here, and also a button container or buttons container so that they are next to each other like that. Okay, so for the challenge, you've got 3 things to do. First part is header will appear if user chooses the Svelte answer. So what do I mean by that? So here, let me refresh that. And here, when it asks which is better, Svelte or React, if they choose Svelte, then we want the Svelte header to appear, that header that we have. So right now, it's just if show header, but show header can never appear. So if they choose Svelte, the header should appear. And as a hint, because it's kind of tricky to figure out just by looking at the story, the happy score will be greater than 0 if they answer Svelte, okay? And it'll be 0 or less if they chose React. So just as a hint. Okay, and then number 2, display the final message depending on happy score. So based on what I say here, right now it says undefined, but we want to display this last message right here. So end. So nice, neutral, or mean. So if the happy score is above 0, then we want to display the nice message. If it is equal to 0, the neutral one. And if it is below 0, we want to display this message right here in here. Okay, and then there is one last part, is to implement the reset functionality right here. So right now reset does nothing, but we want it to take us back to the beginning. And if you don't really feel like implementing the reset, that's not really specific to Svelte, so don't sweat it. Okay, so last thing I'll say before you start this, you can implement both of these as reactive statements up here along with these. You can do that, or you can write functions to handle these use cases. Up to you. I'll show you how to do them with reactive statements, but that's not necessarily the best way to do it. So try them out. If you get stuck, I'll show you one answer at a time. So just pause the video now, try it out, and then play when you're ready. Okay, so for this first one, header appears if user chooses Svelte. Okay, so here, story.js, this question appears 0, 1, 2. So this is story index 2. But after they answer it, it'll be story index 3. So we want to check on story index 3, is their happy score greater than 0? And if it is, then we're going to show the Svelte header. So right here, next to my other reactive statements, what I'm going to do is say if happy score greater than 0 and story index equals 3, show header equals true. Okay, so this will check whenever story index changes, it'll check is it 3? And if it is happy score greater than 0, then show the header. Okay, so that's all we need to do. Let's refresh that and see. And you'll see when I click Svelte is the future, it appears. Okay, so now if you want to try the next challenge, then pause the video and I'll show you how to do it. Otherwise, I'll show you how to do this right now. So display final message depending on happy score. Okay, so this will be a bit trickier. What we're going to do here in Smiley says, we want to somehow handle this so that Smiley will say something different if there is a end right here, if there is an end key in the object. Okay, so if end, so basically right here, if this dot end. So normally it's this dot Smiley says, but in our case, it's going to be this dot end question mark. Okay, so the question mark, so if this does exist, then we want to handle it right here in this, and otherwise it's going to do what it was doing before. And just to make this a little bit clearer, we're going to do question equals story at story index. And then we can replace all of these with question. Just a little bit of refactoring here. And question. Cool. So if it is question.end, then we have 3 different use cases. So happy score equals 0. Happy score is greater than 0 or less than 0. So I'm actually going to write a function to handle this so we don't have to write it all out right there. Let's put it down here. Function final message. So if, I'm just going to use some if statements. If happy score is greater than 0, then we will return question dot end dot, what did I call it? Nice. This will return that. Else if happy score is less than 0, we'll return question.end.mean. And finally, we will return question.end.neutral if it is equal to 0, so if it's not either of these. Okay, and then right here we can just do final message, and that will bring us what we need right there. Okay, so let's refresh and just go through it. Cool, and here we see, I think Smiley likes you. So I got a happy score, you can see with the smiley face, and so I get the happy message. Now if I, reset's not gonna work yet, but if I go back and I do something mean, none of your business, for React, no, I definitely just hate you. Smiley doesn't like you, okay? So that was the worst I could possibly do. Okay, finally we have the reset. So in order to reset, we need to kind of hijack the click handler. Okay, so normally it's passing e.detail.value, which is plus equal whatever number. So if we come back to story.js, we'll see here the value is going to be reset. So we're going to take that value, check if it is reset, and we'll reset to the beginning. Okay, so here we just need to add an if statement. If e.detail.value equals reset, then there's 3 things we need to do. We need to set story index back to 0, and we need to set the happy score back to 0, and finally, show header will be false. And if it's not reset, then we'll do what we were doing before. Okay, so let's try this out. Save, reset it. So I'll type in my name here, Noah. Okay, I'm good, thanks. Great question. Svelte is the future. Yeah, and I sure do. Awesome, so I got the best score, got a kissy face, and now when I click reset, it'll bring me back here and I can do it again. Okay, so that's all for the final project. If you want, you can change the story, or you can fairly easily add some more reactive statements like this and have other things pop up or colors change. There's a lot you can do with this pretty easily. So the next video is the last video, and courses, the fact. Hello there. Great job. You made it all the way to the end. That is very impressive. Most people don't make it to the end of courses. The fact that you did means you are a very special person. So there's a lot of things we didn't cover in this Intro to Svelte course, like Svelte transitions, context stores, lifecycle methods, and Sapper. There's lots of cool things about Svelte. So what now? I would say learn more. So there's lots of different resources. I'll get to that next. Another thing is just make lots of things in Svelte. For me, writing in Svelte is so much fun, and I really can't go back to doing it any other way. Also, join the community, the Svelte community on Discord, GitHub. Here are the resources again, svelte.dev. You can find an interactive tutorial. There's also lots of docs. Again, if you want to be notified about the Svelte Bootcamp here on Scrimba, you can sign up here. This is my YouTube channel. You can also email me, sveltemaster@gmail.com. And feel free to come and join the community here, Scrimba or Svelte. Both are super friendly. You can ask any questions you like. And finally, I just want to say happy Svelting. I hope you enjoy Svelte as much as I do, and you continue to learn about it and create stuff and do wonderful things in the world. See you next time.